Hey everybody, it's Jim here. I was recently asked by a viewer what's on my current pedal board, and I waited a few days to respond because I just changed it all up. I went from a much larger board to a smaller one, more fitting of this sort of studio space. However, I had one other thing I wanted to talk to you about before I go over the signal flow and the routing of the board, as well as what pedals made it, and that is I'm now working with a company called Buy or Borrow Music. I'm going to get more into detail about that in a later video. This is not a sponsored video, but this Tuesday, June 18th, there's a free live stream that you can enter if you click on the link in the description, totally free of charge. The director of Two Notes USA, Justin Bryant, is going to be on the call with Dave, the owner of Buy or Borrow Music, as well as me and many other people. And the topic of discussion is going to be all about meshing the digital world, the pedals and all this kind of stuff, with the analog world, the tube amps, and it's right up my alley. I got some questions that I have already written down ready for that live stream. Again, totally free. Everybody who shows up is going to get a free trial of their Genome software, so that's pretty cool. You're going to get something out of it. But with that out of the way, I do got to get to the pedal board. Try and keep this brief. This is what it looks like. The most important piece on this pedal board, you can't see from the front. It's the back. When you're building a pedal board, do not skimp on power. This is the Chiox DC7. I'm still not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but let me tell you something about this power supply. It is amazing. It will power anything from a Quad Cortex to a DS1 from Boss. We invest a lot of money into our guitar pedals. It's worthwhile to invest an adequate amount of money into a quality power supply. Now onto the board itself. Starting off with the TC Electronics Nano Tuner. Not much to say here. It's simple, it's reliable, it's got a small footprint, so if you are working with a smaller board, you'll be able to find a space for this thing without much problem. Now we get into the drives. There's only two drives on the board right now, the Benson and the Brown Amplification Protein. I typically use the Benson by itself, and now that I have the Brown, I have the gain a little bit higher than I had before on the Benson preamp pedal. It gives me this really cool, almost fuzz-like kind of drive to it. It's really, really gnarly once you really crank the gain up on it. However, the main pedal that I'm using for drive is the Brown Amplification Protein, and part of the reason why is because this side of it, the blue side, this is almost always on. Even when I'm playing clean, I have the gain rolled back a little bit, and it just kind of gives it this awesome flavor. It doesn't matter if I'm using the Dr. Z or if I'm using another amplifier such as the Music Man 212 HD. It really adds character to it. And having this always on, I like to have last in the chain. So if I were to have more drive pedals like I did in the past, everything else would be before it. Some people like to do it the other way around, but for me, I just like it at the end of the chain because it's the kind of color that I want to remain most present in the signal. Finally, before we get into anything with the time-based stuff, I only have one modulation pedal. This is the Zelza. This is a phaser and a bit of a flanger, a bit of a Leslie rotary speaker thing. It really can do all sorts of stuff. I have these three on the bottom because these are always going to go in front of the amp. Up to the top, this is the time-based stuff. Got the Strymon Volante. This is just a do-it-all pedal, man. It really does so much more than just delay. It's also a looper. It also has reverb built into it. And when you do have the multi-switches, which I'm sacrificing at this point because I don't need all the extra ones because the reverb on this one is not going to be used as much because we have the one on the Dr. Z already. It's just an awesome, awesome, awesome tool. Next, this is a pedal I think everybody should have. Not necessarily this exact one, but a kind of outside the box, different sort of pedal. And that's the Earthquaker Devices Astral Destiny. This thing gets a really, really, really over-the-top kind of reverb delay algorithm, and it's just wild. You got everything from shimmers to just straight-up outer space sounds. And other pedals that are similar to it are the Rainbow Machine. That's another one that's a really cool one to have at the end of the chain to really just add a lot of randomness and spice to your sounds. And it can be really inspiring to use a pedal like this or the Rainbow Machine or anything in this kind of genre to make things stand out a little bit different and give you creative inspiration. The reason why I also have these three on the bottom is for flexibility. Right now, everything is wired. So the Zelza is going right into this one, the Volante. However, it's going to be really easy for me if I want to use the effects loop on the Dr. Z. I can pull out the top right here from this, and the output from this guy will change from going to the actual amp straight up in the front into the effects loop. So effects loop in, effects loop out, send, return. And then from the Zelza, that will go right into the front of the amp, and I won't have to move any of the pedals around. Now, there were a few pedals that didn't make it from my old board onto this one, but I want to highlight one of them real quick and explain why. The HX Stomp. It is nothing against this. It's actually in praise of it. I'm going to be using this to record silently at night with no amplifiers. I've got some really cool presets dialed in and some pretty believable Fender style cleans, and I'm excited that you're all going to be able to hear and also to download those presets that I've made. And yeah, having this just totally by itself with its own power supply that I'm going to be able to move up and around the house and film in different areas should be pretty cool going forward into the future. But as for this board, just didn't make it. I wanted to keep things a little simple. And I also forgot how big the Strymon pedals are when you're trying to build a board. Man, they take up a whole lot of real estate, but they're definitely worth it. And that's it. That's the board. If you got any other questions that you want me to answer in video form, leave them down below. But again, I really encourage you to join this live stream. If you're watching this after the fact, maybe they'll have a replay up of it. But again, Justin Bryant, the head director of Two Notes USA, is going to be talking to all of us about all things analog to digital and making them work in unison together, because my stubborn old butt, I'm ready. I'm ready to really dive into that world of hybrid guitar tones. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Take it easy, everybody.